Welcome back. It is Wednesday, and that means we are now just 2 days away from the start of the 93rd Howard Wood Dakota Relays in Sioux Falls. We previewed the MidcoSN High School Girls Special 200 last night on the show, and tonight we are turning our attention to the other invitation-only event at the meet, Friday's Boys Special 800. So, for all the details, let's bring in our own Alex Heinert. And Alex, the Special 8 field was revealed this morning. You were on the selection committee again this year, and you've said that this was one of the hardest fields to assemble in recent years.
That is correct, Kelly. Whether it's the 200 or the 800, the potential candidates for the boys' special event are always a little more ambiguous than the girls entering the season, simply because most of the top male runners from the year before have all graduated, and this year was more of the same. All 3 state 800 champs in South Dakota and both in North Dakota had moved on to the college ranks. And then this spring happened, or didn't happen, so we didn't really have a lot to go on. Thankfully, it all came together in the end. We've got a great collection of the top half-milers in our 4-state area in this field, and it's going to make for a very competitive race on Friday nights. All
right, glad to hear it. But when you look at this year's field, what stands out?
Well, 2 things, I think. First, when you look at the PRs of this group, there isn't one standalone favorite to pick from. The top 3 are all within a second of each other in the 155 to 156 range, and then the rest are not far behind. Second, those top 3, Gable Sieperda of Central Lyon in Iowa, Bo Brannon of Bismarck Legacy, and Daniel Burkhalter of Bison, they've been winning stuff since they were freshmen, making them outliers of sorts for boys track and field. Great longevity from that group.
Very cool. Okay, so tell us about that group of the 3 seniors.
Well, the poster boy for prolonged success in this field is Dan Burkhalter, who we've talked a lot about on this show this spring. He's a homeschooled Class B athlete from way up in the northwest pocket of South Dakota who has won 8 individual state titles between cross country and track. That story writes itself, quite frankly. Until last year, Dan was thought of as purely a distance guy, but then he dropped a 156 flat in the 800 at the State Bs last year. Even though he's missed some time this spring with injury, he is definitely a contender in this race. Dan's background pretty similar to that of Gable Sieperda, a small school kid from the northwest corner of Iowa that has been dominant in the 2-mile and on the cross-country course for years. He's coming off an MVP performance at the Drake Relays last weekend, where he won the high school mile and the 2-mile. As an Iowa State commit, he really is the biggest name in this field. And then there's Bo Brannon, who, like Burkhalter and Sieperda, has been on the state podium since his freshman season. He's the only returnee to this field from the last time the boys 800 was contested at the Dakota Relays, and he is pumped for another shot at the title.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be running the 800 this weekend. I ran it when I was a sophomore, and it feels good being a senior, and I'm going to try to run pretty fast, maybe like 152, 153, whatever it takes to win it.
Our current platinum leader, Brannon, has finished top 3 at the North Dakota State meet in the 800 in each of the last 2 years, and he just ran a 155.37 this past weekend at the Charlie Denton, the best time in the field and in the Dakotas this spring.
That is booking it. All right, so it sounds like those 3 are on their game this year, but what can you tell us about the other contenders in the field?
Well, let's start with Kaiser Friedli of Lackaparle Valley Dawson Boyd, a Class A school north of Montevideo, not too far away from the South Dakota-Minnesota border. Friedli was the 1A runner-up in the 800 last year as a junior at 157.78, and a lot like Bo Brannon, he's committed to run at North Dakota State next fall. He's a good cross-country runner. He was 5th at state this past year, and I'm curious to see what he does against this level of competition. Trainor of St Thomas. He's been a bit of a Swiss Army knife for Scott Benson and the Cavaliers the last 3+ seasons. He's gone under 51 seconds in the 400, was a state runner-up in cross country, and has done a little bit of everything in between. His PR is almost 4 seconds back of the likes of Sieperda and Brannon, but I don't think anybody's going to have a better finishing kick, nor will anybody want this race more.
Being invited to be in the Special 8 is something I've been looking forward to since I watched my teammate Luke Julian do it 2 years ago. It's been a dream of mine, and just to hear that I actually get to do it, it motivates me so much more to work so much harder.
When you look at the rest of the group, I wouldn't count out Alex Lewis of Fargo North, who picked up a pair of top 4 state finishes in the Class A 800 and mile last year as a sophomore in North Dakota. He won both of those events at the North Dakota State Indoor Championships earlier this spring. And then there's Ethan Brennaman of Sturgis, who was the first in the Dakotas this year to break the 2-minute mark. Like Lewis, Brennaman got on the 800 state podium as a sophomore last year, finishing third behind a couple of guys who are now running in the Summit League in Jacob Hanna and Gabe Peters.
I've been running a lot of speed workouts, really. You know, just a lot of 800s, 600s. I'm trying to get some good sleep, eat good, you know, try and make it a 24-hour thing because this is it's a huge race right here.
Finally, let's talk about the wild card in this race. Brady Dannenbring of Sioux Falls Roosevelt. Brady won a state title as an 8th grader on the Rough Rider medley squad and another last year in the 4x8. He was 5th in AA in the Open 800 in 2017, but he hasn't really competed in any open events this spring. And he's a football guy. All of that football training means he's a little bit bigger than he used to be. If anything, at 6'5", 195, he will be the most physically intimidating guy in this race.
Okay, interesting. All right, so prediction time. How do you think this shakes out on Friday night?
Well, this is a really tough call, but I'm going to draw on recent Dakota Relays history as my guide here. Back in 2014, in the Boys Special 800, the race came down to Carter Lilly of Sioux City East, Dylan Werner of Bismarck, and Jace Kraft of Wessington Springs. And in the end, the kid from Northwest Iowa got the win. The Bismarck athlete finished 2nd, and the Class B runner was 3rd, with all 3 going under 157. In a redux of that race, I think Sieperda from Northwest Iowa, Brannon from Bismarck, and Burkhalter from Class B end up going 1, 2, 3, maybe in that order. Although in this race, it would not shock me if we get an upset, Kelly.
Oh my goodness, the 800s are the best. So
yeah, right?
Yes, I have a special place in my heart for the 800. But looking forward to it Friday night at 7:30 from Howard Wood. And don't go anywhere, Alex. When we come back, we are looking at the top marks in the Dakotas in the 3rd installment of the Platinum Leaderboard this season.